after that first trip, and I wanted to go back every year and just experience it, get to see the countryside, be out in nature.
There's countries in Africa that I really want to visit and see and experience.
You know, it was awesome. There's a saying, nobody goes to Africa once, and it is definitely true. Just the terrain and the beauty of it and is unmatched.
I liked to read when I was a kid. I spent a lot of time at the library, the public library, school library, and I gravitated to the outdoor type books.
I didn't come from a hunting family, but I had a love of the outdoors at a very early age, and I just fell in love with wildlife and outdoors and the naturalistic element.
We're pretty self-sufficient and did our own camping, cooking, guiding. Felt very comfortable out in the wilderness.
At age 8, my father, who was mostly a fisherman, but I had a grandfather and an uncle that were hunters, and my father put an old Stevens shotgun in my hand and said, "Go hunting, son."
It was our first trip to Africa. I took a lot of pictures, and after being there the first time, I knew I wanted to go back a second time. And between my husband and our professional hunter, they were both working on me about, you need to hunt, you need to do this. So the second time, which was a year later, I took 2 animals, a gemsbuck and a zebra. And after that, I've taken several since that time. It opened up new doors. I never thought I could do anything like that, and just had a lot of fun.
You know, I grew up in a small town of Marlin, Texas, central Texas. And my dad got me started with shooting doves and rabbits and that sort of thing. And then I advanced to whitetail deer hunting. My dad and I made many trips out to a ranch outside of Sonora, Texas. Hunted there for many years. And then my dad and I made several trips to Wyoming, where we went elk hunting. And then after he passed on, I really kicked it up a notch. Started going to Alaska on self-guided hunts. Did a number of those hunts over the years, and then went to Africa.
I have 3 older brothers and my father and my grandfather, and we were essentially bird hunters. We hunted pheasants, ducks, geese, grouse, partridge for the most part.
I've hunted all my life. I grew up on my family's ranch in East Texas, and hunting was a way of life. It was a way that we put food on the table when I was growing up. Venison was a staple. So a lot of deer and duck and that type of hunting when I was growing up. And I've always loved the outdoors and took it to a different level a few years ago and have always really enjoyed it. And when I went on my first African safari, it just gets in your soul.
My interest in hunting started with my husband. I had never hunted, never been exposed to it, and he wanted to go to Africa. It just kind of grew from there. You know, I completely out of my comfort zone going to Africa, scared to death the whole time, and it just turned into a passion.
I read fishing books, and I really got interested in hunting books. And from there, it just kind of grew that this is something that I might want to try.
Had friends who hunted, and fortunately somebody, a friend of my father's, invited us to go on a hunt, and I fell in love with it. And then fortunate enough to have a few more invitations in my teenage years, and kind of furthered that love of the outdoors and the love of hunting.
There's a lot of good that comes out of hunting that people don't realize is there. Much less the economy, obviously, and much less the conservation, and much less taking care of the animals. You know, there's not an animal that I've shot that I didn't say a prayer over and said thanks for providing the animal. That's so important that we respect what we are taking and that we know where it's coming from.
My brothers are 7, 8, and 9 years older than I am. We pheasant hunted a lot. They were good shots and quick shots. And so years went by where, you know, they said, you probably shot this one, but one of those guys also shot. And so I was never convinced. One day we were walking on the field and I was on the far left. And darned if a rooster pheasant didn't get up in front of me and go left where nobody else could shoot at it. And made a good shot on it. And it dropped. Well, you know, I was I don't know, 14 or 15-year-old, ran up and picked a bird and held it up and said, yeah, And then I looked back, and all three of my brothers and my dad were silent. And I'm like, well, what's that about? And so I walked back, and we had another half a mile or so to walk. I had a pouch to put my bird in. And in that half a mile, I kind of developed the basis for my whole thinking is it's the respect for the animal that's paramount. And I'm not sure that I showed that, getting that excited. You know, I've talked to them all about it since, and not one of them remembers it. But it was probably the most impactful thing that happened in my hunting life. You know, kind of shaped my thinking about wild animals and wild places and wild things from then on.